Welcome back to Canhammer, everybody, your source for AOS from the Great White North. Tonight's read along, the Night Haunt Battletome. Welcome to Canhammer, everybody, your source for Age of Sigmar, 2nd edition from the Great White North. Tonight we have the Night Hunt Battletome fresh in our hands, ready to read through. I'm looking forward to this. At first, when I first saw all the models coming out, I thought, okay, I'm going to buy all that stuff. But I decided that I got quite enough to do, and I had Flesh Eaters, and I had Nagash. I wanted to play Skeletons, so I decided to not do that until I see what's in the book. So I'm excited to see what's in the book. Obviously, we've seen a lot of Night Hunt stuff out already, but not everything. So I'm excited to see how good or not good, as the case may be, the Night Haunts will be. Of course, Death needs a major boost, and hoping that they make a good contribution to competition in 2nd edition. So, without further ado, let's get started. Okay, it's not a very big book. Of course, all new artwork, and the total pages is only 88 pages, of which fluff is 52 pages of it. So only 20-something pages of rules. Let's just have a quick look through the book, though. All this nice new artwork. Lots of new models. Basically, the entire faction is almost completely new. So, very cohesive looking army, all kind of ghostly and balefire and skeletons and reapers, rusty reapers and swords, and so it's all very cohesive. A really nice redesign of the Night Hunt faction. You know what's annoying is that supposedly Nagash is like, you know, the master of all this stuff, and you can't even play him in a Night Hunt army. But anyway, okay, so this is all kind of fluff here. This is kind of how the Night Haunts are kind of set up. The Mortarch of Grief is the head of these guys, I guess. That's that new Lady Alinder model, which is pretty sweet. I'm telling you, it's hard to resist playing these guys because the models are so awesome, and you know, probably extremely quick to get on the table too. If you wanted to do it as fast as possible. Here's some of the models, of course, fantastic models. That new black coach is just ridiculously awesome. I love that model. It's really, really good. Okay, a whole section in here on how to paint your Night Haunts, so it might be useful coming up. And of course, the two new paints seem very good. The blue and the green Night Haunt paint. All right, Night Haunt processions, battle traits, command traits, spell lores, and okay. So, allegiance abilities, aspects of the ethereal hosts. So all Night Haunts, I guess, get these abilities. Subtract 1 from bravery of enemy units within 6 inches. Okay, that's pretty good. Deathless spirits. Roll a dice each time you allocate a wound or mortal wound to a Night Haunt model that is wholly to a friendly model from a unit wholly within 12 inches of your general or a friendly hero. So that is something I noticed on Flesh Eater Courts recently, that it is now the unit has to be wholly within in order to get your minion save, and so it is with Night Haunts, except that it's 12 inches. So you really got to make sure that every single model is wholly within 12 inches of your hero to get this extra 6-up save. From the underworld they come. Instead of setting up a Night Haunt unit, you can place it to one side and say it is in the underworld. Set up one unit in the underworlds for each unit you set up on the battlefield. So you have to be 50-50. At the end of your movement phase, you can set up any of these units more than 9 inches from any enemy models. This counts as their move, and if they're not set up before the start of the 4th battle round, they are slain. Okay, so Night Haunts get automatic deep strike, which is great. Keep your opponents guessing. Feed on terror. Each time an enemy unit fails a battle shock test, pick one friendly Night Haunt hero within 6 inches of that enemy unit. Heal 1 wound. Okay, Wave of Terror. If you make an unmodified charge roll of 10 plus for a friendly Night Haunt unit, it can fight immediately after you complete the charge move. This does not stop the unit from being picked to fight in the combat phase of the same turn. Wow. Okay, so here, this is unmodified roll, so this is not going to happen very often, but if you roll a 10 plus on your charge roll, you get to immediately have an extra fight phase, which is awesome. Command ability. You can use this command ability at the start of your movement phase. If you do so, pick a Night Haunt unit on the battlefield, remove that unit, and set it up wholly within 12 inches of your general, more than 9 inches from an enemy model. This counts as their move. Interesting. So for CP, you can relocate your models to your general. Returning slain models. Several Night Haunt abilities allow you to return slain models. When you do so, set up the models one at a time within 1 inch of a model from the unit they are returning to. This can be a model you return to the unit earlier in the same phase. The slain models you return to a unit can only be set up within 3 inches of an enemy unit if one or more models from the unit are already. Okay, so this specifically says you can daisy chain your rezzed models. So if you have a big unit of the chaff guys, whether they're gas reapers or whatever, you can daisy chain them towards objectives, which could be very handy. Okay, command traits are of course a trait that you can give to your general. Hatred of the living. Reroll failed hit rolls for attacks made with this general's melee weapon. Blah blah blah. Terrifying entity. Start of enemy movement phase. Roll a dice for enemy units within 3 inches of this model. If it's greater than the bravery, they must make a retreat move. Okay, Lingering Spirit, add 1 to the general's wounds. Spiteful Spirit, each time you allocate a wound to the general inflicted by a melee weapon on a 5 up, the attacking unit suffers a mortal wound. Cloak and Shadow, subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks made with missile weapons targeting the general, which is good. Ruler of the Spirit House, at the start of your hero phase, you can pick a friendly summonable Night Haunt unit and return D3 slain models to that unit. The return models must be set up within 9 inches of this general. Okay, that returns whole models, which can be very good. And it's not a command ability or anything. And you can use it multiple times. So that's probably the one to take, or the -1 to hit one. Okay, new spell lores. Soul Cage, casting value 6. Pick an enemy unit within 12 inches that's visible until the start of your next hero phase. That unit cannot retreat until the start of your next hero phase. The unit cannot fight in the combat phase unless all other enemies have already done so, okay? Spirit Drain. Spirit Drain has a casting value of 4. If successfully cast, enemy model within 18 inches that's visible. Roll a number of dice equal to that model's wounds characteristic. For each 6+, the model's unit suffers 1 mortal wound. Life Stealer. Life Stealer has a casting value of... so let's just go back to Spirit Drain for a minute. So casting value of 4 is basically an auto cast. Enemy model 18 inches, so number of dice equal to the model's wounds. So you pick something like, let's say Archaon, for example. Archaon has 20 wounds. You roll 20 dice and every 6 is a mortal wound. That's pretty good for a casting value of 4. Obviously not very good for 1 wound model. Okay, Life Stealer. Life Stealer has a casting value of 7. If successfully cast, pick an enemy unit within 12 inches that's visible. That unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. For each mortal wound suffered by the enemy unit, you can heal 1 wound allocated to the caster. Reaping Scythe. Reaping Scythe has a casting value of 4. If successfully cast, pick one of the caster's weapons. Until the start of your next hero phase, you can reroll hit and wound rolls. Pretty good. Shade Mist. Shade Mist casting value 6. Pick a friendly Night Haunt unit and subtract 1 from wound rolls that target that unit. Pretty good. Spectral Taser goes around 6. Pick a friendly Night Haunt unit. Heal D3 wounds. Okay. Okay, artifacts. Let's see. D3 mortals on a 6. Pick one bear's melee weapon, roll 2d6. If it's higher than bravery, it's a Ren -3. Add 1 to the damage. After picking a bear to fight, before they pile in, pick one enemy model within 1 inch of it. If the roll is greater than the model's wounds characteristic, it is slain. Headsman's Judge, pick one of the bear's melee weapons, add 1 to hit and wound rolls. That's pretty good. Subtract 1 from hit rolls made by melee against the bear. Okay? Nothing too crazy there. Relics of the Underworld. Okay, so I guess these are artifacts, different artifact tables. So Relics of the Underworld. Cloak of Waxing Moon. Oh, so that was weapons. This is relics. This is wounds negated on 5-up instead of 6-up. Just for the bearer. So Deathless Minions goes to 5-up. Add 3 inches to normal moves made by friendly Nighthaunt units wholly within 12 inches of the bearer. Dreadbolt Ring. Inflict 1 or more wounds with their melee weapons. Inflict D3 mortal wounds afterwards. Mirror of Screaming Soul. At the start of your shooting phase, roll 2d6 for each enemy unit within 8 inches. If the roll is higher than the unit's bravery, it suffers 1 mortal wound. The bearer becomes a wizard, knows Arcane Bolt and Mystic Shield, and 1 spell from the lore of the Underworlds. It can cast 1 spell and unbind 1 spell. Covenant is familiar. Roll a dice for each enemy unit within 3 inches. On 2+ unit suffers a mortal wounds. Nothing too crazy. Infernal Lanterns are for Guardian of Souls with the Nightmare Lantern only. Light Shard. Once per battle at the start of combat phase, the bearer can use this artifact. Reroll failed hit rolls for attacks made by Nighthaunt units within 12 inches. Wholly within 12 inches. Got to keep an eye on that word wholly. Witchlight Lantern. Add 1 to casting rolls for the bearer. And Beacon of Nagashazar. If the bearer successfully casts Spectral Lure spell and is not unbound, instead of the normal effect, you can either heal D6 plus 3 wounds or bring back wounds characteristics equal to D6 plus 3. Okay, here's a battle plan. Path to Glory. Okay, War Scrolls. War Scroll Battalion. Nighthaunt Procession. So this is the big one. I'm not going to bother because we can't play that really. Shroud Guard. So this has a Knight of Shrouds or Reikenor with 2 units of Bladegeist Revenants. So this gives you roll a dice each time you allocate a wound or mortal wound to a Bladegeist Revenant model within 12 inches of the dude, big dude. 5-up, you negate it. You cannot use the Deathless Spirits battle trait to negate the same wound. Okay, so that just gives you a better Deathless Minions if you're within 12 inches of this guy. And that battalion is, just keep track of this as we go, that's the Shroud Guard. For that privilege, you have to pay 110 points, so not worth it. Or 2 CPs, that's another way you can think about it these days. Okay, Death Riders. This has a 1 to 2 Dreadblade Harrows, 2 units of Hex Wraiths, and 1 Black Coach. And add 1 to the charge rolls for units from this battalion. If you make an unmodified charge roll of 9+, you can immediately fight. Okay, so that just brings it just adds 1 to charge, and then increases their special charge thing to 9+. Yeah, and it replaces the Wave of Terror battle trait. Okay, and for that extra privilege, you get Death Riders. You have to pay 130 points. Probably not worth it. And you have to take those units, obviously, which we haven't looked at yet. The Condemned. This is a Spirit Torment, 1 unit of Chain Ghasts, 2 Chain Rasp Hordes that must contain at least 20 models. Cruel Taskmasters. Reroll failed hit rolls for attacks made by trained Rasp Hordes units wholly within 15 inches of this battalion's Spirit Torment. Okay, so this wholly within thing is very important. I mean, if one model is slightly out of 15-inch radius, you don't get it for the whole unit. So it's very important to keep that in mind. And for this privilege of rerolling hit rolls, the Condemned, you need to pay 150 points. Probably not worth it. Chain Guard. This has a Guardian of Souls, this dude with the lantern, I guess. 2 Chain Rasp Hordes of 20 or more models. And for this privilege, Each time you're affected by spectral lure or temporal translocation spell cast by Battalion's Guardian of Souls, return d6 slain models in addition to any models returned to the unit by the lure spell. Okay, so for the ability of extra d6, you have to pay 120. Maybe worth it. Execution Horde, 1 Lord Executioner and 3 Spirit Hosts. Subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks that target the Lord Executioner while there's a Spirit Host within 6 inches of it. In addition, add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by the Lord Executioner while Spirit Hosts are within 6 inches of it. So really you run all these Spirit Hosts to buff the Executioner, and for this privilege you pay 100 points. Death Stalkers, 1 Cairn Wraith, 2 Grimghast Reaper units, and 2 Glaive Wraith Stalkers. And after setup is complete, but before the battle begins, pick 1 enemy unit to be soul marked. Add 1 to hit and wound rolls for attacks made by units from this battalion on that person. That's okay. Deathstalkers for 120 points, probably not a good deal. Shrieker Host, Banshee, some Dread Scythe Harridans, and 2 units of Murmorn Banshees. So these are the Banshees and these are the Harridans. Mournful Wailing, reroll battle shot rolls of 1 for enemy units within 6 inches of any units from the battalion. In addition, Inspiring Presence cannot be used on enemy units within 6 inches of any units of this battalion. Okay, and for that you will get 140 points, probably not worth it. And that's it. So let's look at Lady Alinder. She's already been spoiled, and I don't think this is any different from what's been spoiled. But she's this awesome kind of ghostly, kind of KKK looking female rose ghostly model. And I guess the rumor is that is Isabel von Karstein. Anyway, so she moves 6 only, which is pretty slow. She does fly, but only 6-inch movement, a 4-up save, 10 bravery, obviously, and 7 wounds. People were thinking, oh, she's 72 points, but that's just the page number, guys. Because look, okay, that's just page number. And her staff has 3 attacks, 3s, -2 d3 damage, not too bad. And her spectral maidens obviously just do the usual 6 attacks, 4 4s, and on a 6 they'll do a mortal wound, like all the spirit hosts. Okay, she's ethereal, so she will have a 4-up save regardless, or what I'd like to call a 4-up invuln. Frightful Touch, so yeah, so 6s on the banshees cause a mortal wound. Grave Sands of Time. Once per battle, you can choose either to inflict d6 mortal wounds on an enemy hero within 6 inches of this model or heal d6 wounds. So, not too bad. Lifting Veil. At the start of your hero phase, pick an enemy unit within 12 inches of this model that's visible. On a 1, nothing happens. On a 2+, the unit suffers a number of mortal wounds equal to the roll. In addition, if any enemy models are slain by this ability, immediately heal d3 wounds on Alinder. Not bad. That's every turn. 12-inch kind of mortal wound beam. Mortarch of Grief. Add 1 to the number of models that flee if you fail Battle Shock within 12 inches. Pretty good. And also keep in mind that everything within 6 inches of Night Hunt already is at -1. So it's an extra 2 models. It could be significant. Wail of the Damned. At the start of your shooting phase, roll 2d6 for each enemy unit within 10 inches of this model. If the roll for the unit is higher than its bravery, it suffers d3 mortal wounds. Pretty good. All these kind of just passive aura damages is pretty sweet. Kind of reminds me of Mortarion. You don't have to do anything. You just have to be within range, and then you just roll some dice. You have to remember to use them all. She's a wizard. She can cast 2 spells, unbind 2 spells. She knows Grief Stricken. Grief Stricken has a casting value of 7. If successfully cast, pick an enemy unit that is within 18 inches of the caster and visible to them. Until your next hero phase, subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks made by that unit and add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made against that unit. Not too bad. Command ability, No Rest for the Wicked. Use this command ability in your hero phase if this model is your general and on the battlefield. Return 1 slain model to each friendly summonable Night Haunt unit within 12 inches. Not bad. Alright, now you have Kurdos Valentian the Kraven King. This is the dude that sits on that floating throne. And he has a scepter that does 5 attacks, -2 rend D3, pretty good. And he has specters as well. He can fly, and he is ethereal with a 4-up save, 7 wounds, same stats as Alinder. Spectral clause is the same as before. If I cannot rule, none shall rule. At the start of the enemy hero phase, after the opposing player receives their command points, on a 5-up, you steal it. Sweet. That's awesome. Soul Crushing Smite. If the unmodified wound roll for the attack made is 6, it does D6 damage instead of D3. And suffer no rival. Reroll failed hit rolls against the enemy general. Okay, not too bad. Maybe worth trying out just for that little CP stealing ability that could swing a game. And let's see how many points he is just out of interest right now. He is 220 points. Probably not worth it. Okay, Reikenor the Grimhailer. Same stats, except he moves 14 because he's on this flying mount called Killaron. He has a Fell Reaper, which is 4 attacks, 4/3, -1, straight up 2 damage. I actually like that better. Wish I had one more attack though. And then the horse attacks. Flies, Corpse Candles. So before you cast a spell, you can choose to snuff out a candle. If you do, pick either an enemy model or this model. If you pick the enemy model, they suffer a mortal wound, and you add 1 to the casting roll. If you take the mortal wound, you add 3 to the casting roll. Interesting. And the candles are, of course, on the horse's head there. He's ethereal with a 4-up save. The whole book basically is ethereal 4-up save, so just take that as it is. And the Fell Reaper, if it hits on a 6, it inflicts 2 mortal wounds, which is pretty good. And reroll failed hit rolls for units that have 5 or more models, because it's like a Scythe. And he knows Wraith Storm. He can cast 1 spell and unbind 1 spell. Casting value 7. Pick an enemy unit within 12 inches that's visible. Suffers D3 mortal wounds. Any units models in this unit are slain. The unit immediately suffers an additional D3 mortal wounds. So probably 2d3 mortal wounds. The Knight of Shrouds, which I happen to have because that was a limited release. He's 5 wounds, 6 move, otherwise same stats. 4 attacks with -1 rend, 2 damage. Flies, ethereal. Each time he inflicts each time a wound inflicted by this model's Sword of Stolen Hour slays an enemy hero, I heal 1 wound. Command ability, pick friendly Nihon unit, add 1 to hit rolls that are wholly within 12 inches. Okay, add 1 to hit rolls. We'll keep that in mind. Something adds 1. Knight of Shrouds on a steed. So basically the same, but he gains a wound and an extra 6 inches of movement, and the horse attacks. Otherwise, it's exactly the same, except this guy adds 1 to attack characteristics. And it says specifically, a unit cannot benefit from this command ability more than once per phase. Okay. Specifically states there, Lord of Geists. Again, wholly within, but it's 18 inches. Okay, Guardian of Souls. So far we have something that adds an attack, which gives you +1 to hit. Guardian of Souls with the Nightmare Lantern. 5 wounds, 6-inch move. Chill Blade does 1 damage at -1 rend. Maul does 2 damage with no rend. Fly, ethereal. The Lantern, add 1s to wound rolls for attacks made with melee weapons used by Nihon units within 12 inches. So here's another add 1 to wound rolls. So now we have the Knight of Shrouds with an ability that adds 1 to hit rolls. Here's an aura that adds 1 to wound rolls, and +1 wound rolls is pretty sweet. Wizard, Spectral Lure. Spectral Lure has a casting value of 6. If successfully cast, pick a friendly summonable Nighthaunt unit wholly within 24 inches, heal D6 wounds, or bring back wounds equal to D6. Okay, so far we haven't come up on anything summonable, but we will. Okay, so he's a summoner, like a healer, and he has a +1 to wound aura. Spirit Torment. That's one of these masked guys. The whole army's pretty slow, 6-inch move, 5 wounds, does -2 rend, D3 damage. Flies, ethereals, Nagash's Bidding. You can reroll hit rolls of 1 for friendly Nighthunt units while they're wholly within 12 inches of one of these guys. Okay, so now most of these things are hitting on 4s. And now you're getting a +1 to hit, you're getting a reroll 1 to hit, and you're getting a +1 to wound. All auras. Captured soul energy. At the start of the battle shock phase, if 3 or more models were slain that turn, pick a friendly Night Hunt unit within 6 inches of this model and heal D3 wounds. Okay. Stormcast Eternal models heal 3 wounds instead of D3. In turn, instead of healing, you can bring back blah blah blah, usual stuff. If your army includes more than 1 Spirit Torment, at least 3 enemy models must have been slain during the turn for each Spirit Torment that uses this ability. And no Spirit Torment can use this ability more than once in the same battle shock phase. Okay, it's not a command ability though. Chain Ghasts. So this is the first of the troops that are summonable. These guys are the bigger guys with 2 wounds, 6-inch move, 4 up ethereal fly. These guys are hitting on 4s, so may go down to 3s, rerolling 1s. Wounding on 3s, so may go down to wounding on 2s. With -2 rend 1 damage is pretty sweet. The flails, again hitting possibly on 3, wounding on 2s, -1 damage. With a 2-inch range. Oh, the gas flails are missile weapons. Well, that's pretty sweet. D3 missile shots, doing -2 rend, 1 damage. While this unit is wholly within 12 inches of a friendly Spirit Torment, you can reroll hit rolls of 1 for friendly Night Hunt units while they're within 12 inches of this unit. Okay, so you can make a little chain. So the Spirit Hunt gives out the bubble, reroll hit rolls of 1. This guy is within that bubble and gives out his own 12-inch bubble. Reroll hit rolls of 1. Attack characteristics of the Ghast Flail melee weapon is equal to the number of enemy models within 2 inches of the attacking model when the number of attacks made with the weapon is determined. Oh, that's pretty sweet. So if you're surrounded by 10 little dudes, then you're suddenly making 10 attacks. I like those guys. Dreadblade Harrow. This is a non-summonable. He's a hero. It's a little bit mixed up, but yeah, so he can fly. He has a thing, 12-inch move, 5 wounds, usual stuff. Ethereal. If this model is more than 3 inches from any enemy models at the start of the movement phase, you can remove it from the battlefield and set it up anywhere in the battlefield more than 9 inches from an enemy model. So it can redeploy itself, which is very nice. Dreadblade. Add 1 to the damage characteristics of this model's Dreadblade if it made a charge move. Add 1 to the attack characteristic if it did not make a charge move. Ethereal and Curse of Loyalty. Reroll wound rolls of 1 for attacks made with this model's Dreadblade while it's within 9 inches of a Knight of Shrouds. Okay. Lord Executioner. So this guy has only 5 wounds, 6 move, 4 up ethereal save, 3 attacks, 3s, -2, 1 damage. That could potentially go to 2s, but only 3 attacks doing 1 damage. If unmodified rune roll is 6, add 2 to the damage characteristic. Oh, okay. So considering you're probably getting a +1 to hit somewhere, so on a 5 up, oh, unmodified, okay. Ethereal Staring Death in Face. After start of combat phase, pick an enemy hero within 3 inches of this model, subtract 1 from hit rolls. And Disembodied Skull, D6 every time you allocate a mortal wound, 5 up is ignored. It's okay. Tomb Banshee, Karen Wraith, we're going to skip those guys. Don't think too much has changed about them. They're just small little heroes. Glaive Wraith Stalkers. So this is another one of your chaff units. 6-inch move, 4 up ethereal save, only 1 wound, 2 attacks, 4s potentially 3s, 3s potentially 2s, no rend, 1 damage. Fly and reroll hit rolls for attacks made with this unit's Hunter Glaives if this unit made a charge move. So rerolls all hits if it charges. And yeah, that's it. And then probably going to get some wound roll boosting. So not bad as chaff there. And these guys, let's just check points. Are these guys the cheaper guys? So these guys are the Glaive Wraith Stalkers. And they are 60 points for unit of 4 to 16. So they're kind of like medium infantry. The Grimghast Reapers are a unit of 10 to 30, so there's your second largest chaff unit. So this is, again, these guys move a bit faster at 8 inches, just 1 wound, 4 up ethereal. They can take a Scythe, 2 attacks, 4s maybe 3s, 3s maybe 2s, -1/1 damage. The Death Knell is taken by the Ex-Toller. He's kind of like the Sergeant. Reroll failed hit rolls if so scything, so target units 5 or more models. For whom the bell tolls, allocate wounds inflicted by a Death Knell after allocating wounds inflicted by Slasher Scythe. For each enemy model that is slain by wounds inflicted by a Death Knell, you can inflict 1 mortal wound on an enemy unit within 3 inches. Okay. And the Chain Rasp Horde is your big chaff. You can take it in units of up to 40. These guys have 1 wound, 6-inch move. They only have a 5-up save, so they're the only thing that has a worse than 4-up invuln. They only have 5-up invuln, and their bravery is only 6. Isn't that interesting? So death normally is 10s across the board, but these guys' bravery is only 6. I wonder why that is, but maybe it's a balancing feature, and their save is not as good. They do 2 attacks, 4s, no rend, 1 damage. Sort of like ghouls. Dread Warden has an extra attack. Unit can fly, ethereal, reroll wound rolls of 1 if it has more than 10 models. Okay, there we go. Blade Geist Revenants. They move 8 inches, but otherwise the same for 2 attacks, 3s, -1/1, so it goes to 2s and 2s, so pretty reliable damage there. Only a couple of attacks though. Ethereal, reroll failed hit rolls for attacks made by this unit if wholly within any friendly torments or chain ghasts. And Whirling Death, retreat and charge in the same turn. Pretty good. Add 1 to attacks characteristics if it made a charge move in the same turn. Okay, so we can fall back and still attack. Mirrormorn Banshees. These are these little Banshee women. 8-inch move, 1 wound. 4s, 3s, -2 rend D3 damage. Actually do quite a bit of damage with their Chill Dagger. Ethereal, obviously. And if an enemy hero phase within 8 inches of any enemy wizard that casts a spell, this unit can attempt to unbind the spell as if it was a wizard. Add 1 to the unbinding roll for every 4 models in this unit. In addition, if this unit unbinds an enemy spell, add 1 to the attack characteristic of this unit's Chill Daggers. Once in each of your hero phases, if this unit is within 6 inches of an endless spell, it can attempt to dispel the endless spell. If this unit dispels that endless spell, it suffers D3 mortal wounds, but add 1 to the attack characteristic of this unit's Chill Daggers. Dread Scythe Harridan are these kind of rosy, hairy ghosts. Interesting. Again, 8-inch move, 1 wound, ethereal, fly, harrowing shriek. Subtract 1 from hit rolls made by enemy models within 3 inches unless they're bravery characteristic of 6 or more. That's kind of like the old school Mourngul rule. Murderous Bloodlust. If an unmodified wound roll for an attack with a Scythe limit 6, it has 2 damage instead of 1. Spirit Hosts, pretty much unchanged. Hex Wraith, unchanged. The Black Coach. So, a bunch of stats here, which I won't read out to you, but you can look at it. It moves up to 14 inches, unwounded. 4 ethereal save with 12 wounds. Steeds and crew. Boom, boom, boom. Ethereal Frightful Touch. Unmodified hit rolls for an attack made with the Cairn Wraith Reaper Scythe is 6. That attack inflicts 2 mortal wounds instead. In addition, unmodified hit roll of 6 inflicts 1 mortal wound. Evocation of Death. Roll 3 dice at the start of each battle round for each black coach on the battlefield. For each 4+, that black coach gains a level of power. This is cumulative, and they grant the following abilities. First level. Levels of power are cumulative and last for the rest of the battle. Okay, first level. In your hero phase, heal D3. Second level, reroll hit rolls of 1 for this model, and it can run and charge. Third level, Spectral Scythe. After it completes a charge move, pick an enemy unit within 1 inches, and roll a dice on 2 pluses D3 mortals. Fourth level, Insubstantial Farm. The black coach seems to flicker in and out of reality. Model can retreat and charge. Pretty cool. Kind of like this coach driving around. Fifth level in your hero phase. On a 4-up, unit suffered D3 mortal wounds within 3 inches of it. Replay corn reroll hit rolls made for units more than 5. Okay. Endless spell, the Shyish Reaper. Oh, these are the 3 endless spells that you get with the Night Hunt faction only. There we go. A Scythe, an Hourglass, and like a Mimic with skulls coming out of it. Okay, so the Scythe is the Shyish Reaper. Only Nagash or Night Hunt wizards can cast this. Has casting value of 7. Is successfully cast. Set up a Shyish Reaper. Okay, so even though this is Night Hunt only, I guess I could buy it for Nagash. Casting value 7. Set it up within 6 inches. Is predatory. Moves 8 inches and flies. The player can immediately move it. Before moving a Shyish Reaper, pivot it so its base points lengthwise in the direction you want to move. It has to move in a straight line, so it's kind of like the other thing. You roll a dice for every model that it went over. You have to beat the model's save characteristic and suffers 1 mortal wound. Okay, not great. Vault of Souls, which I guess is the treasure chest with the souls in it. So only Nagash again or Night Hunt, casting value 6, within 18 inches of the caster. Predatory, moves 8 inches and flies. After this model is set up or has moved, roll d6 for each model within 6 inches on it. On a 6+, it suffers 1 mortal wound, so it's not going to do very much at all. Soul Eruption. Keep track of the number of mortal wounds inflicted by this model. If the total is 20 or more, all units suffer d6 mortal wounds within 6 inches. Yeah. You have to roll 6s to suffer 1 mortal, and you need 20 of those to explode, so probably not worth it. And Mortalis Terminexus, which is this Hourglass. Nagash and Wizards again, casting value 6, set it up 18 inches, moves 8 inches, flies, usual stuff. If the model set up or has moved, you can decide whether the Mortalis will reverse or hasten time. If you reverse time, heal D3 wounds to each unit within 6 inches of this model. If you choose to hasten time, each unit within 6 inches of this model suffers D3 mortal wounds. Okay, not that great, to be honest. Okay, let's see how much these things cost. So Chainmask Horrors, the basic chaff, 80 points each, up to a max of 40, and you get a 40-point discount for that. And they're the battle line. They're the only battle line. Grimghast Reapers, Hex Wraiths, and Spirit Hosts are also battle line for Night Hunt armies only. Karen Wraith, Dreadbly Hero, Guardian of Souls with Nightmare Lantern 140, Knight of Shrouds 120, Kurdos 220, and Lady Alinder is 240. Executioners 80, Reikenors 180, Spirit Torment 120, Black Coach is going to be 280, and is a behemoth. This is a pretty big model. I guess it's the only behemoth in this book. Blade Geist Revenants, you can take 5 to 20. At 90 points for 5. Chain Ghasts 2 to 4, 80 points each. Dread Scythe Harridans 5 to 20, 90 points each. Glaive Stalkers are 60 points each, anywhere from 4 to 16. Grimghast Reapers 10 to 30. Yeah, so you could really put a lot of models on here, and allies into Deathlords. So I'm just trying to figure out a way that we can get Nagash in the same army. It just doesn't work unless he runs in there at death. Because Nagash won't fit in the number of ally points because it's only 400. And if you do it the other way around, you don't get any of the Night Hunt special stuff. So, yeah. Okay. Well, that's an interesting book. I'm not really sure how strong it's going to be. You can certainly make them hit and wound better by having all these heroes with auras, but most of them are wholly within auras, and you're running large numbers of 30 chain gasps or whatever they're called, and so staying wholly within may be difficult. It does limit your movement. It does make them much more effective, but most things are low rend or no rend. Most things are low number of wounds. Even the heroes are only 7 wounds, and most things are 1 wound. 1 or 2 things is 2 wounds. so easy to die. Obviously, they'll be able to bring back a whole bunch of models, but don't seem that hard to kill. Army wide 4-up invuln basically is very good. That reminds me of playing Custodes, but then your games are 50-50 basically. If you're rolling 4-ups hot, or if you're rolling 50% not hot. But obviously in the setting of it does negate all your enemies' rends, which they've usually paid points for to have high rends. So there's a benefit to that for sure. Whether it's going to change, whether it's going to help you in metas where people are not running a lot of that stuff, I don't know. Overall, I like the synergy of the aura. I like a lot of Death Armies has got to stay kind of together. That one dude who can kind of redeploy himself if he's not in combat is pretty interesting. But yeah, I don't think I'm convinced by this book to go out and buy a whole bunch of models. We'll have to wait and see how the meta develops and how people play it. I'd like to play against it at some point. Apparently Andrew is jumping back in to AOS, so hopefully we'll get a game in with Andrew and welcome him back to the channel on the light side or the dark side, of the case may be. So we'll hopefully get some games in. Next week we're doing a all-day AOS day, getting a few games in, trying to film them all, and it will be the return of the podcast featuring Age of Sigmar. So do stay tuned for videos and podcast content coming up really quickly. So thanks very much for watching, guys. If you like this video, please click on the like button, fancy subscribing to our channel, and support us on Patreon if you really like what we do here. Thank you for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time.